Oh, don't you hate it when you don't have time for an intro? Hello and welcome to One Good Thing, the podcast that loves splitting its experiences into semi-arbitrary units of time. Planets gone around the sun. It was a temperature, then it was the other temperature, and now the original one again. So it's time to take stock. I'm Paul Solar.
I'm next year. Oh, the potential.
Oh, wow! You look great! Oh,
Thanks,
I've gotten a
man.
bit closer to you, and
Yeah.
it's all fallen apart.
A lot of questions.
I have many questions
A
now.
lot of questions.
But hey, I can see the next guy coming around the corner, and I got a good feeling about him!
You can see the other side of my face coming. And I'm wondering.
Oh, we are going to list our favourite films of the year a whole 6 weeks earlier than we usually do.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, get it done. Get it off.
Get it done, get it off, get
Cut
it
it
wanked
off.
off. Because cut it off and learn to live without it. Because we've luckily gotten lucky.
Yes, we have.
On the release
which is lucky.
dates. We've worked very hard at it, and genuinely, I don't think there's any very urgent 2021ers out there that have eluded our collective singular notice, except Coda and Bergman Island, which I was supposed to watch after writing that note, but didn't.
And
Didn't.
The world can take care of those two. That's the world owes us at this stage.
Their legacy is assured. Ours is not, so we must crack on and keep working.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're doing it now, all right?
Right.
We'll
bloody hell.
never be timelier than this, I promise. That's a Paulie promise.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, less timely from here on.
And as usual, we're going to go through our individual top 10s, alternating between us, deferring where the other has listed the film higher, although that doesn't happen too much this year.
No.
The schism
we're our own
builds.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're our own people, Mum. Leave us alone. Stop sending us emails.
It is galling we both have the same mum and life.
And she has her email
we-
addresses.
Just when you think you've changed it enough, she guesses somehow that it's going to be paulsalt@69.com. Somehow.
At 69.com. They did.
At 69.com.
Someone really
They've
did.
started.
They really did choose well. That was good business, creating that domain.
We shall cover films 30 to 11, just ahead of our number ones, as usual. But before that, I actually have honourable mentions for the top 30, because this was a hell of a year. My top 30 of this year rivals 2017, my previous favourite list that we've done for this podcast.
Wow.
It has been amazing. There are 4 movies that just all desperately deserve to be in that top 10 spot, and it just tears me up that they couldn't all be in there.
Oh.
It's very hard.
That's life, my bud.
I feel like I could eliminate my top 10 movies and still put together a really competitive top 10 for what's left.
Yeah, I really struggled with the sort of positions 10 to 8. Again, it's always up to the day, like right to the wire. But yeah, it was my looking at my 20 to 11 now, and they're great. They're still amazing.
Oh yeah. Do you have anything outside of your top 30 that you want to mention?
Lamb, The Dig, Tick Tick Boom, and Luca, all really, really lovely, sweet, passionate, or creepy. Not in that order.
Yeah, I have Zola, Azor, Lamb, Costa Brava, Lebanon, In the Earth, Pig, No Sudden Move, The Suicide Squad, Memoria, Nightmare Alley, and Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah,
All just,
cool.
I'm surprised Tick Tick Boom didn't get into yours. I thought it was a mainstay.
Yeah. I liked it, but
Oh, cool.
I liked it quite a lot, and I found Andrew Garfield really charming. But
Oh, he was great. Very good songs.
I had to compare it. Like, is it that, or what ended up being my number 30? I had to
Yeah.
be the number 30.
And you'll find out about that in 2 hours.
So trying to remember what that was.
Okay, Paul, you Space Jam 2, our mutual number 1. Spoilers.
Fuck.
What's your number 10?
My number 10 is Worst Person in the World.
Oh.
Space Jam: A New Legacy. The
Worst
owner of
thing in
Warner
the world.
Brothers, David Warner, weirdly.
Ha det.
Ha det. Vi var ikke utro, da.
Vi var ikke det.
Vi var ikke det.
Nei.
I said goodbye to me. I looked in the mirror, then I began to cry.
So yeah, Worst Person in the World is the third part of director Joaquin Trier's Oslo trilogy. it focuses on Julie, who moves from relationship to relationship and career to career, having the expected discussions with partners and friends about marriage, having kids, and all other expectations that come as you edge into your 30s. But she has the feeling it's not for her, and for this and her supposed fickleness, she feels adrift and is the self-perceived eponymous worst person in the world. It has these hyper-realistic elements, of art simulating reality, and it reminds me a little bit of Canal Score, not just because of the Scandi origins, but the attention to detail that also somehow manages to fly away on these romantic notions, telling you a big emotional story and somehow being more painful and as painful, more romantic and as romantic as reality.
Yeah, I mentioned Canal Score in my Jen and the Film Critic review as well.
Oh, really? Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
It's a film that's brutally honest and confronting for a number of reasons. But at the same time, the characters are so well realised and charming in their own ways, especially the lead, played by Renata Reinsfer.
Yeah.
I think I looked at the phonetic dictionary and it might have been Rensfer, but
can't remember what she said. She was at my screening.
Okay. Scandinavian languages, Paul, nonsense. So
they're nonsense.
You just make it
Everyone's
up.
making it up all the time.
And good for them. She was just brilliant. She's so charming.
She's great.
So just naturally funny. Such a good sense for comedic timing, as well as just dramatic brilliance. But all in all, it was an outstanding cast. It was really funny and really dark when it needed to be, or wanted to be. It wasn't afraid to slough off its comedic stylings to punch you full in the face. But like a lot of films I seem to come across nowadays in a COVID world, it's a really beautiful meditation on acceptance and embracing life as it is. And following your own path.
It really was. Yeah, exactly. And it had that sort of anxiety-inducing stuff and the stuff and that really brutally honest Ruben Östlund as well kind of way of just, hey, here's something about yourself you didn't realise that we all knew about, but we do. Here it is.
Yeah.
Oh no. But yeah, Reinsfer, she seems to be that funny in real life. There was a moment in the Q&A with her where she was saying, I was really worried the character was going to seem... what's the word in English? And someone in the front row offered unlikable, and she said, "No, get out." The word she was after was passive, which is very good. Yeah, excellent. Worst person in the world.
Yeah,
check it out. We found this movie relatable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't say that. It's very relatable.
Skjønner du liksom hva du er I ferd med å gjøre nå? Skjønner du hva du ødelegger og...
Ja, selvfølgelig.
Okay, my number 10 is The Souvenir Part 2.
This is going to be the most important thing you do at film school, your graduation film.
It's about a relationship that hopefully many people can relate to.
Presumably there's a film expert.
No, the whole team of students.
And no one's giving you direction?
No.
Sounds fairly typical for an art school.
So we are picking up from Joanna Hogg's 2019 film. And it's hard to pick this story up, actually, without spoiling it, because the whole thing is relating to the ending of that seminal film. Okay. So I'll try and avoid it, but it's basically dealing with the consequences of something that happened there in a very thought-provoking and interesting way. The first film presents a relationship that is very relatable, but also very fraught. And the second movie kind of deals with the fallout of that relationship. It's a really beautiful thing that continues Joanna Hogg's sort of personal history and incredibly crap, I need a different word than relatable to use at times in this fucking episode, I think.
All these films are relatable, that's the issue.
They're all relatable. Joanna Hogg has always been good at this, ever since Archipelago, which is the first film I saw of hers, which was just painfully similar to my life at times, just in terms of the way it portrays awkwardness. Here it portrays something a little more profound, I guess, just in terms of difficulty and grief and struggling to achieve any kind of artistic vision. And what's more, in addition to carrying on doing the things that made the first Souvenir so great, is it really feels like an expansion of her style. It almost feels like an early film. It feels really young and adventurous in a way that, her films tend to be a little, not stately, but reserved in their emotion. There's a lot of containment, a lot of people lying to themselves, a lot of people trying to keep it together, and cracks appearing on the surface. This is a very emboldened and kind of impassioned film that has some really experimental visuals as well. And I think she's able to run with the premise that her main character is herself a filmmaker, so you can make sort of films within films and do some really interesting stuff. So it was just a sublime little film.
Yeah.
And I love the characters so much.
Amazing. This was annoying because I couldn't get a hold of this one. I have no idea when or if this is ever going to get released in Australia. I have the first one that I definitely need to watch, but
oh yeah,
I was hoping
it'll get there. It got a
bill it.
big release over here, a surprisingly big release, I think. And Martin Scorsese is behind it. He's the executive producer, so it's also got Richard Ayoade in it, which I almost feel bad mentioning because he's being plastered all over the marketing. He's a very small part of it, but he's very funny. He's doing some improvisation of playing an egomaniacal douchebag, which he does very well. So he's in there too, so that helps drive it out there.
Well, look out for my top 30 2022.
I'm storing, I'm gathering experience and information, and I'm waiting to find what I want to do with that.
All right, number 9.
My number 9 is Come On, Come On.
Come on, come on.
Come on, come on, and listen to my number 9, Space Jam: A New Leg.
To visit planet Earth, you will have to be born as a human child. At first, you will have to learn to use your new body, to move your arms and legs. You will learn to walk and run, to use your hands, to make sounds and form words.
Directed by Mike Mills, come on. Starring Joaquin Phoenix as a radio journalist with an estranged relationship with his sister Viv, played by Gabby Hoffman, and nephew Jesse, played by Woody Norman. Phoenix suddenly has to look after his nephew, because his sister has to go and look after her husband, who's struggling with mental illness, played by Scoot McNairy. The mental illness is played by Scoot McNairy. The father is played by an unknown man that Paul can't distinguish from anyone else. And this eventually leads to Phoenix taking his nephew on the road with him as he works. He's currently working on a documentary on children's attitudes towards questions of community, politics, philosophy, life, morality, and so on. So he's in touch with kids in this way and what they want from the world, but is completely unable to connect emotionally with his nephew or his sister for that matter. And throughout this movie, as Phoenix is trying to sort of form a relationship and just get by with his nephew, Woody Norman, we get these phone calls between Phoenix and his sister where Phoenix is panicking and regaling her with the trials of the day, and all the sister can do is empathize, like, yeah, this is shit, and having kids can be fucking awful and heartbreaking, and sometimes you feel like you're going to die most of the time. Yeah, and I hate it sometimes, but then sometimes it's like, yeah, exactly. It's just brutally honest, but it's like nothing else, she says. And mostly we just have these thoroughly heartbreaking interactions between uncle and nephew. Oftentimes his nephew asking these intrepid questions and Phoenix just not being emotionally equipped to deal with them or answer frankly. And you're there going, no, you mad, insane man, just respect him and tell him the truth. But it is what it is. They're trying, and it can be heartbreaking, and it can be really rewarding. And the movie is just this series of moments that at times brings the two characters together and at times drives them apart, and not necessarily is my note. Necessarily for definable reasons, or it's just something so vague that you feel from the outside that they make it work, if not for these million silly things. It's beautifully shot. The black and white brings out the scenery in a way that would otherwise blend into the background. It just gives you texture and extra detail. And it's just a very delicate movie that's so painful at times and leaves you with so much love for the characters that you root for them every step of the way.
Absolutely. And it's set in 3 cities, and each city feels so vividly realized.
Yeah, New Orleans was a world away, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was somehow. Even though, with this black and white cinematography, it just really picked up the vibrancy and energy of these places. And as I said to Jen on the Jen and the Film Critic episode, I would have watched, I think, a movie that is just Joaquin Phoenix interviewing kids, because there was something just really absorbing and engaging about those sequences.
The amusement on his face, in his eyes, when he's talking to these kids is wonderful.
And the affection he has for them and their viewpoints is just, oh man, it's really lovely.
Damn this book.
You're crying.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're definitely crying. Say you're crying.
My number 9 is Petite Maman.
Tu viens m'aider? Je t'avais jamais vu avant. Tu m'as pas dit comment tu t'appelais. Lenny. Je suis chez ma grand-mère. Elle mange la semaine dernière. J'aime bien faire des petites tiges de chocolat et les manger.
Speaking of failing to communicate with children, this is Celine Sciamma making a movie about a young girl whose grandmother has just died, and her mother is really struggling to deal with it. It was her mother that died. And so she retreats, literally. She runs away, the mother does, leaving daughter and father alone together. But when playing in the woods around the family home, the grandmother's home, the daughter discovers another little girl and gradually realizes that, in fact, she has stumbled upon her mother as a girl. And that she is traveling in time between the two sort of realities and the two versions of the home. So it's smaller and more intimate than Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but no less potent. At the heart of it, you've got these two girls. It's Josephine Sands and Gabrielle Sands, presumably twins, and not. It's a massive coincidence. But I don't know how France works. They're amazing. They're so good and natural with each other, and they've obviously sisters sort of playing together and making use of this beautiful French countryside they have surrounding them, making trees out in the woods and playing around on a boat and just messing around in the kitchen, and it's all very endearing. But then there is this poignancy there that this is actually a sort of mother and daughter who have found a new way to connect with each other and process sort of death and aging and sort of finding a way to communicate. And it's just lovely. Aside from anything else, it's just a really charming story with a lot of magic in it, and once again, Sherman's incredible use of music that was such a vibrant part of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Yeah, it's just a really spectacular little film. I really love it.
Awesome. Again, hopefully I'll be able to see it soon.
I hope so. It's also quite a small little bite of a thing. I think it was like 70 minutes long.
Oh, really?
And it was just
Shame.
And it was just
I'd love that.
Really a lovely little punch to the heart.
Wow. Your heart does need a punch from time to time.
Yeah, then it kisses it better after.
Yeah, listeners at home, give your heart a punch.
Give your heart a punch. It's good for what ails you. Except heart punch. You can't use heart punch to cure heart punch.
Yeah, for the love of God, you can't do that. This is two wrongs kind of thing.
My old dad used to try and fight a heart punch with heart punch.
That's why he's heavyweight champion of the world.
Je pense chez toi. Je suis contente qu'on se soit rencontrés.
Number 8. Drive my car.
Drive it.
Or in Japanese, drive my car.
妻です。僕たちは確かに僕が一番恐れていたのは音を失うことだった。
Directed by Ryusuke Hamaguchi.
Ryusuke Hamaguchi.
Yeah, it's based on Murakami's story Men Without Women. I only vaguely remember the story from which this is adapted, but from what I do remember, I think the film expands on it quite a lot. A theatre director played by Hidetoshi Nishijima called Yusuke Kafuku, recently widowed, is forced to use a chauffeur while staying in Hiroshima to direct a multilingual adaptation of Uncle Vanya. Kafuku, played by this inimitable Nishijima, is a softly spoken and too stoic protagonist, and we follow the final year or so of his marriage to Otto, who is unfaithful to him, and his decision to never tell her that he knows goes on to create this impotency that at the same time is weirdly decisive and imprisoning at the same time, self-imprisoning that is. And it's something that they could break out of, but they can't also. And then the following 3/4 of the movie is set in gorgeous Hiroshima, it's this beautifully meditative drama. Half of it is spent in script readings of this multilingual Uncle Vanya, which I found to be hypnotic and mesmerizing, and peppered with these observations on the performance process.
Yeah.
As well as the psychological effect of giving yourself to Chekhov's writing, which is all understated and utterly transcendent, described in film with delicacy and a kind of awesome precision. Kafka's chauffeur Misaka, played utterly deadpan by Toko Miura, is just brilliant.
Yeah.
There are these moments when she has to convey being overcome by emotion without changing her expression, and it's pitch perfect. But it's all those moments when they're driving, Kafka practicing his lines, and Misaka driving in silence, eyes taking in everything, that this movie fills its 3-hour runtime as if it were nothing at all.
Yeah.
And the name Kafka is no coincidence either. Murakami regularly references Kafka in his writing and the situation this protagonist finds himself In has these elements. Like I think of being told he's not allowed to drive his own car around.
Yeah, that's exactly the moment I was thinking. The sort of faceless bureaucracy of it.
Yeah, he attempts to explain why it's necessary for him, and the response from his assistants is very much yes, that is a shame. Anyway, enjoy your chauffeur. It's just this neutral or objective world that's immune to his suffering. The inexorability of it all is quite tragicomic. But ultimately, this is an epic tale of self-discovery through grief, told thoughtfully and with utmost care before a gorgeous, at times vibrant, and at times bleak landscape. It's just this hole to climb into and wait out the winter. It's beautiful.
It is really beautiful, and I love the insight into the performance process that is in there. And because throughout the entire thing, he is refusing to take part in his own production, which is something he normally would have done. And yet in spite of that is still learning lines, in his car. So there's this kind of ongoing sort of lying to himself thing, but also the reasons and the motivation behind his reluctance to take on a role again. Is really just very profound and very interesting and insightful.
Yes.
それでも私はやけなんか起こさない。だから今毎日とても楽しいです。
Okay, my number 8 is The Power of the Dog.
Ooh, I've seen this one.
Here's one you've seen.
What you doing? Getting mixed up with her.
You are marvelous, Rose. We were married someday.
Yes, so this is Jane Campion adapting Thomas Savage's novel of the same name, with Benedict Cumberbatch in the sort of lead role, and him and his brother, played by, what's his name?
Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Plemons. They are a couple of ranchers, and successful ranchers at that, and they happen upon Kirsten Dunst's little tea room, which she runs with the help of her son, played by Cody Schmidt-McPhee, and they get entangled together in a very menacing and sort of dramatic way. And so it's a story about masculinity in the West, with Cumberbatch representing sort of the height of toxic masculinity, not going to talk about his feelings, going to be tough, and he's going to make fun of anyone who sort of threatens that. And he also is deeply resentful of Kirsten Dunst's intrusion into his life.
Yes.
By marrying his brother, and is absolutely dead set on humiliating her in these awful ways.
Yeah.
It's a very performance-driven film, with just fantastic casting that is just perfect on every note. And just when you think you've got the power dynamic figured out, something shifts. The only odd inclusion is that Thomasin McKenzie is here, and it's not quite clear why. I don't know if she was cast a little early or she was just relishing the chance to work with Jane Campion, but it's a very small role considering
Who was she again?
to have her involved. She played one of the maids. She's the one who finds the fact that Cody Schmidt-McPhee has dissected the rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
And she's later involved in tennis. It's very odd that she's here.
Yeah. Maybe it is just to get in on the Campion.
Yeah. Oh, you got to get in on that Campion game. It's such a tight game.
Dude.
And we have this extraordinary music and atmosphere. Music by Johnny Greenwood and atmosphere care of Campion, it seems. And it's just incredibly menacing and sinister. And there's fret just oozing from every moment. And it's got that wonderful sense of where are we going? The first time I watch it, I just remember feeling unbearably tense throughout the entire thing. But just absolutely beguiled by how the layers are stripped back and you learn more about these characters and they absolutely refuse to be caricatures.
Yeah.
And there's just more, it keeps evolving and changing and it's just really, really involving as a result.
Yeah.
It's just a fantastic little drama.
Yeah, it's beautifully bleak and it's menacingly bleak and menacingly beautiful. It's also really vivid for me is Benedict Cumberbatch's sort of learned villain because he's
this horrible thing like a Cormac McCarthy character. He's an educated man who chooses to be a savage.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's exactly it, and it's dangerous and suffocating because there's nowhere you can go.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it has the quality of like a fable or a parable to it.
Yeah.
It's there's a mythic nature to this.
Yeah. I mean, even the title is kind of suggestive of fable, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was a Bible reference, and it has that feeling of sort of Cain and Abel style drama being played out when the Earth is new.
Yeah.
But it's already ancient.
Sort of a lonesome place out here, Pete. Unless you get in the swing of things.
Great. Okay. My number 7. Take a seat, get a cup of tea, put your feet up because it's boiling point.
I'm literally down a corner now. Hey, I'm down a corner. Give me 2 seconds. All right, ta-da. I'm looking at her. What's that say?
Oh, dear.
It's a fucking joke, isn't it?
And it's her first week, so it's my responsibility.
It's not a first week in any fucking kitchen, though, is it? There's a million kids out there who would die for this fucking opportunity that you've been given.
Jesus, directed by Philip Barantini. It's a film about all of our collective mental breakdowns.
Never go to a restaurant. It's the worst thing you can do to a person.
For the love of God. Only slightly.
Got to stop this.
Only slightly better than working in one. Starring Stephen Graham, Jason Fleming, Vinette Robinson, and more.
She's so good.
Yeah, she's incredible. Basically, it's 90 straight minutes behind the scenes in an evening at a popular London restaurant. It's one take. They did a few runs of it, and you can tell because it kind of it kind of adds to the haggardness of the characters. We follow the table staff who have to handle a smorgasbord of patrons of differing levels of cuntiness, including but not limited to racists and influencers.
Yay!
You know, it's staff who are overruled by their bosses, who are in turn despised by the kitchen staff, who, thanks to the blisteringly unstable Stephen Graham, are just tearing themselves apart.
Oh, man.
His life is falling apart before our very eyes, and he is unbridled and unrestrained in self-destruction, but also just destroying everybody around him who works with him. The tension is palpable and unrelenting. Yeah. There are actually 1 or 2 moments when we follow a character outside or to a private room, or in one instance, two characters connect around a discovery. And you just have to squeeze in all your breaths and emotions because you can't afford to have them out at any other time. And all, you know, within the first 10 minutes of the movie, these seeds are being sown that you know are going to bear fruit before the end. Like these little details that make you think, no, that's going to go wrong. And you're just counting down the clock on several bombs that are going to blow up in your stomach.
Yeah.
And it starts with a visit from the food safety inspector who, you know, has an important and necessary job, but is the biggest job's worth you've ever met. And comes sloshing in with institutionalized condescension, and you just kind of wish Stephen Graham would smash his head on the table, but you then remember that this is realism, and what will actually happen is another vein is going to pop in his eye. And you know, Jason Fleming is fucking incredible. He's to use your beautiful phrase for Peter Sarsgaard in The Lost Daughter, he's lip bite the man, just a self-satisfied smug wanker TV chef who needs a kick in the face, but also has a degree of power over Stephen Graham, and it's just a suffocating web. Vinette Robinson has to be mentioned as well. She is great as the kind of, it's not sous chef, is it? She's just the sort of kitchen.
She's like the second chef, like the
scenes between her and Stephen Graham are just heartbreaking, thanks to their chemistry, the exhaustion in their mannerisms, but also the sort of knowing regard she has for Stephen Graham's character, the fact that they share what he's going through, and she's a victim, but she's also a saint, and it's all there on her face. It's a remarkable spectacle of a movie.
It really is. And that's everyone. Everyone is under this enormous pressure, which means that they're lashing out, which adds the pressure to everyone else. It's like a chain reaction happening, where you can just see that nobody's going to be able to calm down and treat each other with respect in this environment, and it just spirals, and it's horrific. It's for me, it's because I've never enjoyed watching like those fucking Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay bullshit things, because I always just think, why is this good to watch? Why is it that, you know, someone who is supposedly very good at cooking is therefore entitled to be an absolute prick to everyone? And this feels like an absolute exposure of that mindset of what that actually costs people in the long run. And I love it.
You're fucking former, man. You don't do the prep. You don't give a fuck about us. You fucking come in thinking of food. You're a fucking ass.
You do the right thing, or you go under, and so do I.
My number 7 is Parallel Mothers.
Va a ser muy morena como tú. Es
Me morí, ¿no?
En caso de duda, la única solución es hacerse una prueba.
Yo no tengo dudas.
Pero yo sí.
Ya, mi amor, ya está. Cada vez la veo más étnica, ¿eh? Yo solo me acosté con Arturo. Pues entonces sale tu padre.
To change tone and pacing a little.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be sampling all of these, the trailers of each one of these movies, and I already know what the trailer to Parallel Mothers is like. So you've already had a little glimpse. You've had the Pedro Almodovar thing of very softly spoken but impassioned people speaking in Spanish. He insists on that. I've never understood why.
It's pretentious.
And
Deeply
utterly pretentious. In particular, the husband's incredibly deep voice is going to be in there, you know, talking about how he wants a test and all of that. It's the story of Penelope Cruz is a mother, and Melina Schmidt as well, and they are parallel mothers. Oh God, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you if I can. They both give birth the same day, and it follows their story for a bit, but then it becomes clear that they are entangled in some very crucial and important way.
Mm.
And so the first thing to say is just that it's interesting how you've got the world here, which is full and vibrant and beautiful in the way that Almodovar always does. All these bright reds and greens and yellows that he always uses, and this, you know, food is always present and beautiful, and there's something wonderfully inviting about the world and the spaces he occupies. This is one of those kinds of movies you watch where suddenly you're in those places for a bit. You're in her apartment, you're in the cafe that she has around the corner. You get to know these environments, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
But you're also getting to know the characters and their drama that is unfolding between them. But in spite of the high drama that's going on, it's never melodramatic. I find there's never like soap opera. It never erupts into the big, you know, sort of fuck you moment. It's always just very real. It always feels like reasonable human beings trying to work out deep hurts and pains for each other, which isn't to say this is unemotional, because my God, there are moments in this that just, you know, make your heart stop and you catch your breath in your throat.
It's devastating, yeah.
There are some devastating moments going on here that are just sublime. I think the tone in general is very serious but beautiful and warm as well. It's you know, a very positive view of humanity in general, I think. In spite of the fact that at the heart of it, you've got this sort of horrible moment of history being literally exhumed throughout the whole thing. But what the movie wants to do is say, this is the humanity that was disrupted. Here is the story of just people living their lives, and this was what was stolen from people, you know, in the Spanish Civil War, when a number of men from Penelope Cruz's village was taken out and shot. And actually there's a very poignant moment where Melina Schmidt is talking about how she doesn't really know anything about this and doesn't get why it's important, and Cruz has to say, you should know what country you're from. You should know, you know, what it cost us to get to where we are now. And that's a very powerful moment. And Schmidt, meanwhile, is hiding in her past her own particular kind of tragedy, a really painful kind of history that she has, which also comes out. And it's just, all of this is explored in such a tender and empathetic way that it just makes me really just want to specialize in Almodovar and seek out everything else he's done, and definitely be first in line for whatever it is he does next, because my God, he's just knocking it out of the park at the moment.
Yeah, seems to be a man bursting with insight and passion, and God, it's incredible. Don't think I've ever seen a movie of his that didn't have this reaction in me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mi amor, yo te quiero mucho, ¿eh?
Tiene rasgos de mi madre.
Speaking of me, number 6 is Mitchells versus the Machines. The Mitchells versus the Machines.
The last humans must be here somewhere. Wait.
They're coming.
Is that a burnt orange 1993 station wagon? Or is it... Who are these unstoppable warriors?
We're the Mitchells, the only people who can save the world.
Mitchell versus the Machines.
Mitchell.
He's a big guy. Phil Mitchell versus the Machines.
Written and directed by Michael Rianda and Jeff Rowe, from producers Lord and Miller of Lego Movie and one of my favourite movies of all time, Into the Spider-Verse fame. And you can tell because of the sheer love and care that's gone into this. It definitely picks up where Spider-Verse left off in terms of being visually innovative and multiple Spider-Mans. But it also has, you know, it's about Kate, who is a soon-to-be film student at university and is looking forward to getting away from her family, who don't get her, and she doesn't get them. And so the visual style is heavily lent on the sort of homebrew, like visual effects style based on the movies that she makes on YouTube, and it's so quirky, and it gets that. It feels like a kid is, or a younger person is doing it without feeling like a 60-year-old man is writing it. Probably because that's not who's writing it. But it also has a sci-fi eye that is visually unique. It has a sci-fi eye, but it also has this visually unique eye for the crap. Whether it's an awkward expression or a badly stuffed dinosaur or something similar. It's so well observed. It's bafflingly great. It's also very affectionate and sweet about the family relationships. So some of the performers, Danny McBride playing the dad, Maya Rudolph, the mum, both brilliant. Danny McBride just always surprises me coming out with something that I really love him in. The two kids, Abby Jacobson playing Kate, and Michael Rianda, the writer and director, as Aaron. Both brilliant. The director lending his weirdly deep voice for the 10-year-old boy is hilarious. And Olivia Colman in it as well.
Yes.
Gives an incredible performance. Often, I think, performing outside of a direction. There are a couple of scenes in there where you just think there's no way she was directed to deliver the lines like that. And Olivia Colman's brilliant spark is just adding these layers to the movie. And that is this movie. It's just moments of surprise, and the movie's full of them. The comedy is constantly, consistently surprising. Just when you're settled with it, something comes up that is utterly brilliant. And it's also this year's film that made me cry for most of the second half. So it will always have a special place in my heart. But the fact that it is one of the funniest films of the last 2 decades sort of punches it into my heart. So that's nice. Give that heart a punch.
Give it a punch. What's the worst that can happen? Yeah, fantastic. It's a really, really fun movie that has a lot to say about family dynamics and just, felt very... And interesting, I saw it the same weekend as Ron's Gone Wrong, so it was very interesting to see these sort of movies about technology and, that it's interesting to see how we're communicating with kids about that, about anxieties that we have about technology and its overuse and its place in our lives.
Yeah.
Mitchells have always been weird, and that's what makes us great. Hold on a second.
What's a Furby?
Why would someone build that?
My number 6 is Licorice Pizza.
Ooh.
Ah, is that how you spell it? Not in the UK.
I met the girl I'm gonna marry one day.
But her mommy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go.
Listen, young lady.
But her friend is nowhere to be seen.
So how'd you become such a hotshot actor?
She walks through her
I'm a showman. That's what I'm meant to do.
So what I think the common thread here is that I really am just gravitating towards worlds that I want to inhabit, because we've got Paul Thomas Anderson here, and this is very much like his early stuff, in terms of no longer having that menacing sense of terror that he's been focusing on for the last decade or so, since There Will Be Blood. This is more in keeping of stuff like Boogie Nights, in as much as he's just sort of gravitating towards a few characters and sort of seeing how their lives play out in this very sprawling and seemingly unfocused kind of narrative that feels like a wonderful Shaggy Dog story with eccentric and bizarre characters coming in. But it's just set in this beautiful world of the 1970s LA. This intoxicating world with just immersive levels of detail. And I think he worked on Inherent Vice. I think he's retained a sort of Pynchon-esque eye for character and story. Some of the episodes that happen, like, I was just think that, he gets involved in a restaurant that gets taken over by a movie director, or a bizarre night out in which he tried to deliver a movie bed to Barbra Streisand's boyfriend.
Yeah. Who just happens to be, was it John Peters?
Yes, John Peters, terrible movie producer, John Peters, spider-obsessed movie producer.
Yeah.
And the result, and it's happening during the LA blackout, so there's just this wonderful sense of adventure to the whole thing, that you could just set out into the streets and make your fortune there. And at the heart of it, you've got this incredible duo performance from Alana Hayam and Cooper Hoffman.
Yeah.
Who are just great. They're infinitely fascinating as characters. Alana Hayam is this woman who is young and she's brilliant and she's really passionate, but she fights with everyone. That is her main thing, is that she fights with everyone. She cannot get along with people. And it's at its absolute funniest in a sequence where the scene starts with her after having had a big fight with her family, who are also great, and I think is actually her family and the band Haim. She sits down with one of her sisters, and the sister says, you really can't fight with everyone all the time. And she just says, fuck off! And gets up and walks off. Scene ends.
Yeah.
It's so good. And Cooper Hoffman is just this really driven kind of bullshitty young guy who's going to talk his way into a great job somewhere. Probably. Maybe he won't. He's a bit of a Del Boy character who's just, again, trying to have a bit of everything in order to come across the get rich quick scheme that's going to see him get his fortune. And they're just great foils together. I love seeing them getting into these capers, and yet there's all this tension between them as well that's again very relatable, to use our word of the day. Yeah, it's just a charming film. It's a film that I could just watch endlessly. I feel like I saw it 3 times in very quick succession, and it has that just sort of settle in kind of quality to it, where you're just going to spend time in this world with these characters.
Awesome. Yeah, the two leads are incredibly charming. I thought it was going to be more of an awkward teen boy sort of thing, but he's so confident, and the two of them together, she's got this look in her eye like she's toying with her prey at all times, and he is just unfazed by it all.
Quietly confident.
Yeah, and oh god, yeah, just some real standout moments of hilarity as well in the middle there. There's a couple really close together that I'm sure we can mention it at some point, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Oh no, so check it out, because it's all based on stories that Thomas Anderson heard about LA in the 70s and things that happened to him as well. So
God,
yeah, it's just it feels authentic.
Action.
Speaking of authentic, Paul, I love you, but also my number 5 is your number 1.
Oh, we can't talk about it then.
No, but suffice to say, Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Oh shit, you're gonna hear all about that in just a minute. All right, well, I guess I'll do more talking then. It's number 5, The Tragedy of Macbeth.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes.
My husband, king that shall be.
If we should fail.
We fail.
Beth.
What?
Where the place? Shakespeare on a list. What next? Well, first, so yes, this is, I don't know if I have to break down the plot. So this is the story of Macbeth, who is handed a prophecy by a scary witch or group of witches, depending on where your persuasion takes you, who tell him that he shall soon be made the... now, I always fuck up the order of the ranks that he gets. I think he's going to be made Thane of Cawdor. He is currently Thane of Glamis. And once he has Cawdor, he will then be king. And also, your best mate, he's going to beget a line of kings. Oh, okay. I don't need to think about what that logically means for me. Let's just accept that prophecy. Sounds good. Yeah. Well, hey! And then he is made Thane of Glamis. Oh, shit. Well, I better make myself king then. Might happen by its own. He's just made some other guy Thane of Northumberland, so it's not looking great for you. You better kill them all. Okay. So he does. And it goes as you'd expect. So... it's, first of all, just absolutely gorgeous, an adaptation. Incredibly memorable images, fascinatingly interesting expression of these ideas. Having the witch played by a single person whose name it is an absolute sin I did not prepare for this, because my God, if she's not the performer of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
In a movie that is full of just absolutely incredible performances. But the witch, Catherine Hunter, oh God, she's incredible. She is immense. Her presence, her otherworldliness is just fascinating, and she exists in this world that feels like old Hollywood acting on German expressionist sets. It honors the theatrical roots whilst presenting something compellingly cinematic that feels just completely it just belongs on that screen.
Sucks in all of the details. She's just the center of anything that she should ever
be in. She's the best. And we've got Denzel Washington as Macbeth and Frances McDormand both here just emphasizing the beauty of the language through their performance and their really natural delivery,
Yeah.
which I love. And throughout the whole thing, just being really, this might sound condescending, but just being really psyched that Denzel Washington was up for this and that he's so clearly giving it his all. Just makes me really happy that he did this. And that the Coens that the Coen managed to talk him into it, because this is Joel Coen sans Ethan, who may be retired. But this actually fits really comfortably into the Coens' work. They do a lot of stuff about tragedy and farce and about the inevitability of things going wrong, and that feels very much consistent here. Some of you may know that I spent a better part of the first lockdown actually reviewing adaptations of Macbeth with Katie Maiden for our podcast, The Scottish Film.
Yeah,
we did it. It was under-publicised, we shall say. But it was a very underfucked, as are we all. And it was a very fulfilling experience. It means that we have quite a good grasp on the script, and this does some really inventive things, in particular with Lady Macbeth, who... There is an issue with Lady Macbeth in as much as she has to go from, dude, chill out, everything's fine, to, oh shit, I've gone mad, in one scene. With no connective tissues. So she's repurposed here, and some stuff that's given to other characters is taken back and given to her, which makes her transformation much more compelling. And Ross, creepy little bitch Ross, is made really good. It's not the first time Ross has been made the third murderer and made to be an overall malevolent presence. Polanski did it as well, but it works really well here. And yeah, he is also extremely well played by Alex Hassel. He's very, very good. So yeah, this is... If you've never seen an adaptation of Macbeth on the big screen before, I think this is like the Night version of the 2015 Justin Kurzel. Or was it Jed Kurzel?
Yeah, the M. Night version.
The M. Night Shyamalan version. The Justin Kurzel version is like the daytime, and this is the night. This is the crazy dream of Macbeth, the cinematic nightmare of it. And I just fucking love this thing.
I
fucking love it.
I fucking love it. I always remember Denzel's physicality come the end. There's a moment where he's engaged in a sword fight, and he's incredible. And it's terrifying to watch.
He's amazing. He starts that sword fight without a sword and just sort of is so confident because he's been told that he's indestructible, and he's allowed, the power of these visions that were given to him to completely subsume him, and it's just amazing.
I have no words. My voice is in my sword.
My number 4 is Hand of God.
Amore, non correre! Non ti preoccupare, va!
Ti sei fatto grande.
Guarda tua madre.
Directed by Paolo Sorrentino. So it's a coming-of-age story. A teen in Napoli played by Filippo Scotti, who in the movie Fabietto, whose life is changed with the death of his parents, and he must find his place in the world. He follows cinema and this sort of white whale of the woman, this adolescent infatuation and attempting to find meaning and purpose in a world that's taken his lodestone from him. Is reminiscent to me of Elena Ferrante a little, in setting and in the ambience of the piece. Mostly this movie has this lovely indulgent way of settling into a scene. I think at the moment he's called into the apartment of the Duchess, an elderly society lady living a couple of floors above, or the strangely lazy family scene in the sun, and then they're on this boat, and the bristling adolescent arousal just beneath the surface. And it's also wickedly funny. This scene in particular, where some of the characters are thoroughly mean-spirited, but it's just this extended family unit, and it just is.
Yeah,
that's your lot in life, and what's important is what you do from that. It also very heavily looks into the idea of cinema and to what extent it can help you find meaning in the world. There's a really I assume it's a genuine quote from Fellini about cinema being bullshit but a nice distraction.
Maybe.
Yeah,
it's the sort of thing he'd say. It was very irreverent.
Yeah, it culminates in a discussion with a character that is just so well observed and passionate and yet brutal, and that's what this film is to me. It's dealing very, very passionately and very poetically with tragedy and turning it into a positive, and it just looks amazing. It's so well acted. It's the movie is a glass of wine on a summer's night. It's excellent.
It's that dichotomy, isn't it, of the sort of gorgeous visuals and this sort of deep well of angst beneath, and it rectifies those two things very well. I don't want to talk too much about it for reasons we shall come to later.
What?
Ulterior motive, my old friend.
Teriyaki motive.
Teriyaki sauce. It's gonna get us all. And speaking of teriyaki sauce, my number 4 is Spencer.
Is she here yet?
Not yet, ma'am, no.
Then she's late.
Yes, she is late.
A horror movie in which a beautiful young woman tries to rescue her children from a terrifying family of ancient vampires. It's the story of Lady Diana.
Lady Diana, yeah.
Lady Diana. Lady Diana Jones. She returns to... Well, she doesn't return home. She goes to Sandringham Castle in order to spend Christmas there with the royal family, which is her family in theory.
Christ.
And it all goes wrong in hilarious ways. There are 3 people to talk about here. First of all, screenwriter Stephen Knight ends a terribly dry spell that included what was the movie of his we covered? The Matthew McConaughey boat movie.
Serenity.
That's why I couldn't get Inconceivable out of my head. Maybe because it was. Yes, fortunately he's back on form, back to his Locke days. With this, because he has written an insightful and fiercely imaginative script that really does make a fable out of a tragedy, as he claims he will do at the beginning. And anyone who complains that this film isn't historically accurate needs to not be allowed into a cinema again, because they miss the point of literally an entire medium. Everything we've been doing here, you've missed.
Well, in cinema.
I don't think a lot of that happened. Get out. Secondly, we have Pablo Larraín. Second, this isn't ranked. These 3 people all do equally extremely good work. Pablo Larraín.
I rank them.
That's fair enough, based on how good they look in a swimsuit. And Pablo Larraín wins that, so he's the most important, because it's a stunningly beautiful and overtly creepy film that is paced like an anxiety attack, with occasional moments of just wonderful intimacy between characters. And reprieve, yes. Just moments of... when she gets to be with her kids, or with Sally Hawkins, a person that she actually relates to and can speak with, it's just little islands amidst a tempest that is just beautifully still. The incredibly haunting quality of stillness, of tradition baked into the walls of this place. And of course, thrown about throughout this, we have Kristen Stewart, who, bit too breathy? Bollocks. She manifests an utterly convincing and mesmerizing portrait of the troubled royal, and she's fascinating and just incredible. You can't prise your eyes off of her in every scene of this movie. She looks iconic.
It sounds like somebody's been up late at night reading bad reviews for Spencer.
I've heard a couple of people say things about Spencer, and I'm here to say
I won't stand for it.
I'm not going to stand for it. What I will stand for is this movie, because it's a film that it captures something very tangible in the British psyche, I think, an urge to resist the tradition that all too often defines us, and as well as the privilege that, is so often associated with us, even by ourselves, and enjoy simple pleasures and freedom. And I think, regardless of Diana's actual life, that is what she came to represent. And it's very interesting the way in which her death occupies a royal-obsessed British mindset, because in so many ways she represents everything that was anti-royal. And as we're still seeing, my God, it's still become such an important issue in this country. With, Harry and Meghan leaving. It was Harry, right?
It was Harry.
With them leaving last year, possibly due to institutionalized racism within the royal family, amidst other things, and also just how horrific this lifestyle is. And also, this year, which the Queen might be using some of her own money to bail out one of her douchebag sons.
Oh, really?
She's going to be using her own money to pay off one of the witnesses to Andrew's sex crime.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's good stuff. There's lots to feel good about there. So, this just continues to be incredibly relevant. And it's a very bold film that I'm absolutely thrilled that they had the guts to make.
It's great. With amazing turns from... supporting players. Sean Harris, Jack Farthing as Charles was.
So he's so
just
dead.
Bafflingly accurate. Yeah,
he's been absolutely battered down and transformed into exactly what they needed to be. And he talks about having to do things that disgust him because he has to, and it's very obvious what he's really talking about. And it's just, he's so good. And Timothy Spall is the utterly terrifying head of the guard, and Sally Hawkins is the really just breath of fresh air. Thank God someone here is human.
Yeah. Stella Gonnet or Gonet or Gonet, I don't know, as the Queen as well was.
Oh, she was great. She does
oppressive.
so little, but it's just terrifying. It's really, really good stuff. And I love the ghost story elements of this film as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so fanciful, and there's an entire sequence that comes from her returning back to the Spencer household that just it just thrills me. I'm so excited by it.
Yeah.
Will they kill me, do you think?
Well, speaking of it, my number 3 is it. It's Riders of Justice.
Lyset her. Nå, der et enkelt plads.
Mange tak.
Directed by Anders Thomas Jensen, starring Mads Mikkelsen, Nikolai Lea Kass, Lars Brugman, and Nicholas Bro as Emmentaler. Mikkelsen plays Marcus. A soldier in Afghanistan with a distant relationship with his daughter. The wife/mother is killed in a train crash, and Marcus comes home to care for the daughter and grieves in the only way he knows how, which is to not grieve, effectively, to keep it all inside and to resist his daughter's attempts to get him to see someone. Three men with various boring scientific skills to others come to this conclusion that this wasn't an accident and track down Marcus to give him the info needed to locate the men responsible for his wife's death. But they're not prepared for the reality of his vengeance, and their constant presence at the house leads to them becoming completely embroiled in Marcus's life and his daughter's. The three men have this Three Stooges quality, which somehow manages to augment the tragedy of Mads Mikkelsen's loss, as he silently grieves and refuses to show weakness or connect with his daughter in the way she needs, or rather is oblivious to this need. It's this excellent mix of light and dark, just genuinely hilarious moments underscoring these moments of complete emotional devastation and complete emptiness. And what great comedy does, as we know, it can lead to real lasting emotional payoffs. It's just incredibly funny and easy to love. But the action beats are gritty and hefty. They're more vivid because of the contrast that these are fake men and their inclination towards sharing their emotions, not to mention the domestic life they're creating by dint of being in his daughter's life. Mads Mikkelsen is just amazing. He's just in the skin of this borderline like aggressive maniac. Very intimidating in a way that only Mads Mikkelsen seems to be able to do. and it also has just this great black Eastern European comedy to it as well. The Journey of the Bike is this movie-long joke that just has such wonderful connotations and just says something brilliant about the whole affair. It was fantastic.
It really was. It was a very interesting and engaging film that I really enjoyed because it's dealing with these things that just the way in which it positions the sort of father-daughter storyline at its heart, I think, was really, really moving. And also these unusual men, and the tone shifts, which are just so natural, but really, really involving.
Natural is the word.
The way that you can have this black comedy and then something really genuinely horrible, you know, so close together is, masterly on behalf of the director.
Lätt att skaffa.
Speaking of masterly directors, yeah. We've got The French Dispatch at number 3.
Ooh. It began as a holiday. Eager to escape a bright future on the Great Plains, Arthur Howitzer Jr. transformed the series of travelogue columns into The French Dispatch, a factual weekly report on the subjects of world politics, the arts, high and low, and diverse stories of human interest.
You don't think it's almost too seedy this time?
No, I don't.
For decent people.
It's supposed to be charming.
This is a series of stories revolving around the city of Ennui in France, the fictional city, I assume. And we have got a framing device, a prologue, and 3 stories. My favourite of which is either The Concrete Masterpiece or The Private Dining Room of the Police Commissioner. Each of which feature different characters, and the premise is that they are all segments within a fake newspaper called the French Dispatch of the Kansas City something Herald, I think.
Yeah.
Which is very clearly a riff on the New Yorker. And yeah, it's I gravitate to these stories. Each one has these incredible performances, and they are all in their own way about the standard Wes Anderson thing of failure to communicate. And failure to connect with other people. And I really lean to The Private Dining Room of the Police Commissioner just because of Jeffrey Wright's sorrowful performance as the lonely food critic, which is just a highlight of the film for me. I absolutely adore it. But perhaps visually, The Concrete Masterpiece is the most exciting of the 3.
So amazing comedic turns in it as well.
Oh, it's so funny. It's all of Wes Anderson's idiosyncrasies. The framing, the attention to detail that sometimes has characters blinking on cue. And the visual comedy throughout is just superb. But it's also him at his most niche. A homage to the New Yorker and French cinema is just totally unique. You know, I can't think of anyone else who would be able to pull off something like this with so well and so competently and in such a way that feels so much both drawing from its influences but also its own unique world that is just intoxicating. Again, it's the world. I just want to be in Ennui in France and see these places and meet these characters because it all coalesces into a much more neat whole than I think some of his other films have recently, with this through line of writing as a career and as a lifestyle, which is also intoxicating. The idea that Bill Murray, as the editor, keeps on staff. He keeps on writers who have yet to actually write anything, but he is a friend to writers, and he loves good writing. And, you know, he'll go and visit Jeffrey Wright's character in prison and just give him a slim book and say, here, it's not much, but write a review of it and give it to me and I'll publish it and, you know, give you some money for bail as a result. And it's just so romantic. That's the thing, is it's a really romantic film. Yeah, incredible performances throughout. Far too many. If I start naming them, I'll only feel miserable about the ones I've left out. So I'll not. Everyone in it is just superb and really, really entertaining. And yeah, this is just one of my favorite Wes Andersons in quite a while.
Good stuff. Yeah. And it needs a rewatch for me, and then maybe a Patreon episode where we actually just discuss it for about 40 minutes.
Yeah, rewatches have been extremely kind. I've seen this 4 times now, and each time it just I get more and more drawn into it in a way that I tend to find with Anderson. Like, I don't think I loved Grand Budapest Hotel the first time I saw it, but I did. Okay. I really did by the time I'd seen it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, the detail kind of demands it.
Yeah. And the stoic nature of the character. You start to see through the cracks in the armor the more you watch it. Yeah.
There's a lot to pass there.
A message from the foreman. 1 hour to press.
You're fired.
Really?
Don't cry in my office.
My number 2. Hang on. My number 2 seems to be your number 2.
But my number 2 is your number 2.
But
Let's
no, you
call
can't.
the
Your
whole
number 2
thing
can't
two.
be my number 2 if my number 2 is your number 2.
Oh shit! I better rewrite the list.
That doesn't make any sense.
All right, my number 2 is now Space Jam: A New Legacy. Then.
Okay, phew. Well, I'll talk about my number 2, which is The Green Knight: A New
Green
Legacy.
Knight.
The Green Knight
actually is still my number 2, everyone. But don't tell Paul.
What was that, mate?
No, nothing, mate. I was just talking about how great Space Jam 2 is.
Brilliant. Oh, dunks.
O greatest of kings, let one of your knights try to land a blow against me. Indulge me in this game.
I will be thee.
One year hence.
The Green Knight, 2021 movie, directed by David Lowery, who gets into my top 10 yet again. Almost the number one spot, visually and stylistically picking up where he left off with Ghost Story. Yeah. Starring Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, Sean Harris. Just checking that I haven't just repeated myself weirdly, especially after thinking he was going to be the villain in The Kingsman. Sean Harris, Joel Edgerton, Sarita Chowdhury, Ralph Ineson, Barry Keoghan, Kate Dickie, and more. Yeah. It's a reimagining of the tale of Gawain.
Sir Gawain, and the Green Knight, to whom Gawain must journey to test his courage and face mortality. Yeah, there's actually no historical consensus on whether it should be Gawain or Gawain, but I do like Gawain. It makes you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. they were doing it in the film, and I'd said Gawain for years, and it's like Latin, isn't it? No one fucking knows.
No one fucking knows anything about anything, really.
That's true. And the people who think they know are dangerous, and you need to watch out for them, and you should dox them. But other than that, other than that advice that I didn't give, so courage in the face of mortality. It's Ghost Story all over again. I feel overwhelmed. There are nods here and there to elements of this mythical quest. Again, this is a movie that demands a rewatch. The second watch for me was illuminating. I can't wait to watch it again and again. The performances are amazing from the comfort of Sean Harris and Kate Dickie's King Arthur home and family, with the chaotic threat that Barry Keoghan, the wild and nature poses, to Joel Edgerton's distant, mysterious retreat with Alicia Vikander, who also plays the sort of common love of his back home. It's unknown, new experiences. It's every stage in this. It's a new level with new challenges and threats. And that's not to gloss over as well the moment with the lady whose body or head is in a lake, and he has to fish it out, which is played by I can't remember. She was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The lesser of the two intellectual properties.
Indeed. Does she then later show up as the bride? Yes, she does. Yeah, very interesting. I've seen a lot spoken about how women seem to be interchangeable in this world to Dev Patel's character.
Yes. That I noticed that on this watch, and it definitely got me thinking about that. Dev Patel, though, is effortlessly brilliant. I fall in love with this man more and more. He's just fucking charming.
Yeah.
And it's the consistency in image and ambition which is what makes this special for me. Yeah. From the first second, you can tell you're in for something really special. The opening monologue delivered with this ferocity.
Yeah.
Bringing life to sort of old text, and this crowned Gawain with his radiant halo.
Yeah.
Which Nell pointed out to me, the decision to represent everybody, wearing the crowns with the halos behind them, as they're depicted in
Renaissance.
Is it Renaissance?
Yeah.
Art, yeah. David Lowery has this eye for style, and it's just there in every shot. Every frame is perfect. The score by Daniel Hart is fantastic and evocative. The whole movie just evokes mystical England with this wonderful vividness and artistry. And it tells at once a really relatable story of courage in the face of the inevitable, and this sort of booming countertale of wanting to move unseen, to not even be a ripple in the water as you pass through. And it feels much like an orchestral piece building to one final note that is one of the most memorable final scenes in all of cinema for me.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck me. I'm just wrapped. Utterly wrapped. It's well-paced, brooding and meditative. It's a piece of cinema that I hope will be revisited again and again.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I've now shown it to a few different people, and it just it's so unique as one thing, and it just looks so beautiful, and it has this great unpredictability to it as you're watching it. Ironically, considering it's a tale that is hundreds of 1,000 years old. I don't think it's quite
50 years old.
I think it's 800 years old or so, but it's just. Yeah. It's just a gorgeous film, and I really love the way in which it explores masculinity, because you have all of these female characters who, in their own way, seem to represent comfort or complacency, abandoning the quest, which may be senseless, but is being undertaken for the sake of serving the male characters, who all seem to represent, in particular King Arthur, this sort of needless or arbitrary sense of victory or aggression. In terms of going out and sort of spilling blood and these immense battlefields that we experience too late. And yet, the profound truth that ends up coming to Dev Patel in his sort of vision seems like a realization of a balance between the two, in which he now is ready to accept his own virtue on his own terms, defined by himself. And it's obviously a very personal story for David Lowery, who talks about, having to, for example, overcome his relationship and dependency on his mother in order to stand as his own person, which feels like its own thing as well in the narrative. So
absolutely,
there's just with something this steeped in symbolism and this mysterious, there's going to be all sorts of readings to occur, and I just can't wait to sort of read more about other people's experiences of this film and see what different people bring to it. But it'll be easy to get them into it because it's just such a beautiful and affecting film.
Yeah,
that is why a knight does what he does.
Are you ready?
Right, let's quickly, time is of the essence, so let us race through numbers 30 through 11. What's your number 30?
Cool, number 30 is Titan. Very surprising body horror grindathon from Julia Ducournau of two unlikely people finding comfort in each other. I'll never tell.
Ooh. Number 30, The Last Duel, Ridley Scott's medieval Me Too movie. Visually stunning, well-acted, grandiose story, ambitious plotting, and surprising sexual politics. Go on, then.
All right, then. Number 29, The Kingsman. Prequel to Kingsman movies, refreshingly good action, rollicking adventure story, and very fun performances all round.
Yeah, absolutely. 29, Passing. Rebecca Hall's softly melodramatic story of black women navigating white society in 1920s New York. Richly evocative and very thoughtful, and Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga are amazing in it.
28, Nightmare Alley. Guillermo del Toro's tale of a grifter grifting himself into a corner, with intense performances from Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Toni Collette, and Willem Dafoe, and a very, very good, lovely performance from Rooney Mara, with violence and magic realism always teasing at the corners.
Absolutely. One of my favourite closing lines of any film ever.
Yes.
28, The Summit of the Gods. Stunningly beautiful French animated movie about ambition and obsession on the steeps of Mount Everest, as a Japanese photographer hunts down the legendary mountain climber, and beauty ensues.
Beauty. Behold. Number 27, The French Dispatch. Yeah, lovely little homage to travelling reporters and the tradition of printed news, full of Wes Anderson nostalgia and fairy tale view of the world.
27, Riders of Justice. You know about it. Mads Mikkelsen and a ragtag group of oddballs set out to avenge the death of his wife in a darkly comic Danish action drama. Very enjoyable characters, a really compelling father and daughter relationship at its heart.
Great. 26, Last Night in Soho. An Edgar Wright movie about a fashion student recently moved to London who witnesses the murder of a woman in the past through her eyes. It's really well paced, shot and acted. Thomasin McKenzie is great. Very funny and stylish. One of those just constantly refreshing and stylish movies.
Yeah.
Surprising movies.
Absolutely. 26, Last Night in Soho. Edgar Wright does that thing he does, and it's very good. Thomasin McKenzie plays Ellie, a young, possibly psychic fashion student who moves to London and starts experiencing the life of a young singer named Sandy in her dreams. Or are they dreams? It's stylish, playful, and very endearing.
Great. I'll have to watch it. Number 25, Spencer. Pablo Durain directs his Princess Diana horror movie with a brilliant performance from Kristen Stewart. I stole the horror movie thing from you. Claustrophobic, intriguing, very compelling.
Yeah, absolutely. 25, Candyman. Writer-director Nia DaCosta, along with co-writers Jordan Peele and Wynne Rosenfeld, breathe vibrant new life into the Candyman mythos in a frightening, haunting, and visually stunning new horror film. What's DaCosta going to do next? Oh, a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Hope it's good.
Number 24, No Time to Die. Very well-paced, fun, fitting end to the Craig Bond saga.
Yeah. Absolutely. 24, The Lost Daughter. Another great actor-turned-director, Maggie Gyllenhaal, offers a troubling portrait of a woman at 2 points in her life, played boldly and authentically by Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley, at once struggling with being a mother for the first time, with a career, and being a British woman on holiday. Both extremely stressful situations, and she horrifically but relatably struggles with both.
As you only can. Number 23, The Sparks Brothers, documentary by Edgar Wright about Sparks and their luminous and multifaceted careers. So inspiring and charming, worth watching for any lover of music. Edgar Wright manages to make his mark, and Sparks undoubtedly acquire new fans as a result.
Yeah, but I've never heard of Sparks. Just see it.
Just watch it, you fool.
Just see it and start your new life. 23, The Worst Person in the World, right? Yes. Speaking of horrific but relatable, Joaquin Phoenix. Yep, that's it.
Yep.
Good night, everyone. Joachim Trier delivers a fantastical but completely grounded portrait of a talented but fickle young woman, played very naturally by Renata Reinsve, as she struggles to figure out what she wants and where she belongs.
Great. Number 22, Don't Look Up. Very uncomfortable and upsetting farce about the end of the world and media political sideshows preventing the human race's salvation. Relentlessly and unashamedly misanthropic. Not a rallying cry, but it gets the pitch just right. It's a ludicrous and horrifically accurate grotesque.
Hooray. 22, speaking of all of that, 22, All My Friends Hate Me. Where the hell is this movie? It was the hot ticket at the London Film Festival, absolutely blew audiences away, has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and doesn't even have a trailer yet. It would probably be higher if I could see it again, but it's a British horror comedy about a young man who goes on a birthday trip with some friends and starts to believe that they might actually hate him. It's social paranoia as horror, and it could not possibly hit harder for me.
Excellent. Number 21, Inside. The Bo Burnham comedy feature on Netflix is poignant and beautiful. A series of sketches around the idea of being stuck in one room through COVID lockdown, whose mental well-being deteriorates bit by bit. It's very well observed. There's a wealth of talent and creativity on show, and was something to cling to during an extraordinarily difficult year. Yeah. It's also very, very funny.
Absolutely. 21, Boiling Point. It's not very, very funny. Yeah, speaking of me being uncomfortable, this is a relentless journey into the heart of darkness that is a busy restaurant, as we follow a superb single take. In a superb single take, the fraught lives of a kitchen staff and waiters as pressure mounts, especially on head chef Andy, played by Stephen Graham, in what might be a career best, but that is a tight race.
Yes. Number 26 is Motherfucking Pig, yo.
Yeah!
Michael Sarnowski, writer and director, about Nicolas Cage looking for his pig.
Where's his pig?
Beautiful... Where's his pig, everyone? Where's me pig? It's a beautiful, understated, well-acted movie. So evocative of a good life lived and past. The ending really was a moment for reflection, and it really overwhelmed me. Proof that Nick Cage is capable of brilliance.
Yeah.
Still, it just chooses not to sometimes.
He chooses not to a lot. It's fascinating.
A lot.
Oh, God. Okay, number 20, Censor. Prado Bailey Bonds. Deliciously niche horror film follows Neve Algar as a censor during the video nasty controversy in England of the 1980s. It's her job to watch loads of horrible movies and decide what needs cutting to protect the delicate British public mindset. But who's protecting her and her delicate British mindset? She goes mad. It's great.
Yeah, it is. 19, Judas and the Black Messiah. Shaka King's historical drama about a man on a plea deal with the FBI to infiltrate the Illinois chapter of the Black Panthers. Yeah. It's a rousing argument for socialism, a very tense thriller, and a heat for the 21st century as far as I'm concerned. Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya are incredible together.
Absolutely. Number 19, Titan. Julia Ducournau offers another brilliantly disturbing exploration of the body and identity and violence as an expression of inner turmoil, and also an excoriating look at family dynamics and in particular fatherhood. If you can stomach it, it'll blow your mind. She goes mad. It's great.
Oh, great. Okay. Number 18, Benedetta. Paul Verhoeven's historical sex drama thriller about a nun blessed by religious visions who starts a relationship with a fellow sister and makes a bid for power. Weird and wonderful, vivid and explicit and sexy and funny and sexy. Really interesting look at religious hypocrisy with a beautifully gross setting of a medieval plague town.
I didn't remember you'd seen this. That's awesome.
Yeah, I adore it.
So good.
Medieval? Early modern.
17th century.
Yeah.
Number 18, Benediction. My favourite 21st century Terence Davies as of now, a very stylish but completely earnest biopic of Siegfried Sassoon with immaculate performances and direction. This, I think, marks the start of the entries that I really, really wish were in my top 10, and we're at number 18.
Yes, you're right. All of these at some point, I think, were in my top 10.
Yeah.
Number 17, Paper Tigers. Director Kwok Bao-tran. About three aging men who have long given up kung fu investigate the mysterious death of their shifu and rediscover the connection to the martial art. Reading's difficult today. Really funny, easy to love, great emotive leads, surprising comedy beats, and satisfying yet very believable action. Fun. Watch.
Yay. Speaking of fun, number 17, In the Heights, the film that I absolutely needed this year. The first thing I saw in the cinema after lockdown. John M. Chu inventively directs Lin-Manuel Miranda's stirring musical about the various facets of immigrant life in America. It's bold, beautiful, and just incredibly well staged. An absolute fantasy of a film.
Lovely. Fantasy, mate. Number 16, Licorice Pizza. Everything Paul said, charming and funny. Coming of age, P.T. Anderson style, which is to say against the backdrop of sleazy LA.
Yeah, love it. Love the sleaze. Speaking of which, number 16, Benedetta. Paul Verhoeven directs a movie about a lesbian mystic nun in the 17th century in a French monastery, and it goes exactly how you think it will. It is peak Verhoeven, so as usual, once you stop laughing hysterically at how earnestly batshit crazy it is, you will start to think about what it is actually saying. And also, Virginie Efira is amazing too. She goes mad. It's great.
Excellent.
There's a bit where Jesus attacks snakes with a sword.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say
It's
about that.
Only similar piece in movie history I can think of is Orgasmo, so take that with you. Number 15, The Lost Daughter, confronting and compelling Maggie Gyllenhaal adaptation of an Elena Ferrante novel about the burdens of motherhood.
Yeah.
It's a crushing responsibility.
Crushing responsibility. 15, Annette. Leo Carré directs the Sparks Brothers musical with Adam Driver, Marion Cotillard, and Simon Helberg. Disparate elements, but every element works superbly well, and in particular, Carré's surreal expressionism works wonderfully with the Sparks Brothers' operatic sense of camp. It's a joyous and melancholy thing.
Joyish. I read that it was Carax.
Oh, is it Carax? Carré sounded more French.
Surprising, man. It did, yeah. But I think you pronounce the X, and the T's you don't pronounce. It's a horrible country.
Fuck me.
I wish it were gone. Number 14, Power of Dog. Desolate and alienating experience. Alienating. Desolate and alienating experience. Beautiful and brutal. Suffocating. Great performances. Dissonant score. Yes.
14, Drive My Car. Oh, a Haruki Murakami adaptation. I know exactly what that's going to be, unless it's burning. Well, it's not burning, so it does go pretty much as you'd expect. But Ryosuke Hamaguchi expertly navigates the strands of story and weaves it all together into a potent missive on grief, artistry, and connection between people. Amazing characters, seductive pacing. It is a treat.
Yeah. Number 13, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Woo!
So good, so much fun. I've just written Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, there you go.
Really great villains, and just so much better than I ever could have thought a crossover would have been. It had so much emotional heft, great characters, great Garfield.
Yeah. Oh, he gives good Garfield.
He does give good Garfield.
Number 13, Come On. An awful lot of entries in my top 30 about how difficult or horrific it is to have children. What am I trying to prove to myself? Well, Mike Mills...
Nothing, that's what.
Absolutely nothing. I'm happy with all my decisions. Mike Mills directs an intimate and profound film about the attempts of one man, Joaquin Trier, to bond with his young nephew, Woody Norman. It's a very moving film with a lot to say about how we speak to each other and how we speak to kids. And why we should.
Why we should and shouldn't.
Yeah.
Number 12, Parallel Mothers. Yeah, just really gorgeous, bittersweet movie set against a captivating historical interest drama around the Spanish Civil War. Yeah. Just amazing performances, and Paul said it all.
Absolutely, I absolutely did. Just beautiful thing. 12, Judas and the Black Messiah. No idea why it was on at the 2020 Oscars and not this year's Oscars, but hey, it's a 2021 film, and it is just monumental. It's profoundly cinematic, from its bombastic score to its definitive performances from Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, who face off like the new Pacino and De Niro. It's also just an immensely timely story of police brutality. And you can join our Patreon to hear our reviews of our number 11s, which are...
Summit of the Gods.
And The Hand of God. So if you want to hear about the various aspects of God and how great he is and what he can do for you, his various bits, then you sign up for that Patreon, you motherfucker.
Go on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. We'd really appreciate that, actually. And I would really
appreciate
it. Same for our
number ones.
If
Not
you could
really.
tell me.
That would be lame.
And you can make me appreciate you by telling me what your number 1 is.
Well, Paul, it's out of this world.
Oh, Space Jam 2!
A new legacy.
How,
Space Jam.
How improved that movie would have been. Had some members of Sparks showed up in that giant crowd scene.
And it was directed by Leos Carax. My number 1 is Annette. Paul.
Yay.
1, 2, 3, 4. So may we start,
written and directed by the people I just said. An opera tragedy starring Adam Driver and Marion Cotillard, with a surprisingly great tragic turn from Simon Heidelberg as the accompanist conductor. He's one of the guys from terrible show The Big Bang Theory.
He's amazing in this.
Yeah. Henry McHenry and Anne Defrenu fall in love and have a child, after which the darkness within Henry leads him down a path of murder and parasitic guilt, and Annette becomes a dark means to an end for both parents. I mean, if you hadn't already surmised, this is unique. It is utterly unique. It has the feel of being performed on a stage, thanks to the sort of scene setting and the way everything is filmed. It's sometimes in that Wes Anderson fairy tale sense, where it doesn't quite feel like it's part of this world, but it's never jarring. It never pulls me out of the moment. And actually, the cinematic style gives the eye sheer focus, a sharpness of image on an expression or solitude, the slow descent into madness. I think Sparks and Carax is just a particular and peculiar blend of surrealisms.
Yes.
You've got the hypnotic, recursive nature of Ron Mayall's lyrics. I'm thinking, oh God, just anything, especially the stuff that are sung by crowds, like like Henry's audience.
6 women have come forward, all with similar stories.
Subjected to Henry's abuses,
his violence,
witnesses to
his anger,
violence and his anger.
Yes, very good.
And then Carax's poetic eye he has and his just ability to shoot love and loneliness. Whether it's scenes of of Henry McHenry preparing for his stand-up with a banana and a cigarette and a dressing gown and shadow boxing in front of the mirror, or Anne alone in her limo, or at home struggling with the child, and Henry with the child just drinking whiskey with Annette balanced on his hand, lifted into the sky. There's just, you're alone with these characters, and it's kind of it's suffocating. There's live singing in this as well. It brings a realness to the whole thing. It's all diegetic singing. It's great. They're all and you can hear as they're moving about or fighting or in one stage giving head. It just adds this extra thing to it that makes it feel realer, all the while being weirder and more Sparks and more Leos Carax, Carax, whatever. And it's, opera demands more straightforward lyrics. It just sounds great when it's in foreign languages. But Sparks have this seemingly innate ability to compose catchy tunes, but with yet simple lyrics. And it gives the movie this wonderfully comedic glint. There are also, some of the pieces are definitely set pieces. I think is it you used to laugh? You used to laugh.
Yeah.
You sure ain't laughing at me no more, when he's flipping out in front of the audience.
Yeah. What's your problem? What's your fucking problem?
Fuck off.
Fuck out of here.
Out of here. My conductor friend with Adam Driver and Simon Heidelberg.
Yeah.
Careful with the stairs, my conductor friend.
It's exploitative. It's exploitative. No, not really.
No, not really. It is exploitation. No, not really. Adam Driver sings with such anger and force at times.
Yeah.
He comes across as so threatening at times, where he's just all anger and strength, and the fact that he manages to get that out in his voice is incredible. But then you have these really melancholy but huge numbers like Stepping Back in Time and Sympathy for the Abyss, which give me chills every time.
Oh, absolutely.
The hairs still stand up on the back of my neck. Jesus, those two pieces are incredible. But as with all truly great films, it had the capacity to surprise, to sadden me, to fill me near bursting with joy, and just to stick with me. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm so thankful that this has a soundtrack, because I listened to it 50 times.
Absolutely.
I'm so thankful Sparks finally got a movie made, and I would recommend everyone watch this. But if you're not familiar with it, please watch Edgar Wright's The Spark Brothers doco first, because it's a really good primer. It's a really good introduction to how they work, to how they write, and
who they are.
Just elucidates who they are, and it just elucidates everything that's needed for you going into Annette.
Yeah,
will blow your mind.
I have very similar thoughts. It's an extraordinary film that's just feels incredibly new and exciting, and sort of it's so great how well the quirkiness of the sort of Sparks' lyrics works with Carrick's style. But I just want to mention another name, which is Devon McDowell, who plays Annette in the sort of closing moments of the film, who is just extraordinary. Like, I really was blown away by her, and it doesn't seem like... It seems like that's her actual singing, which is unbelievable how good she is in that scene. It just, it's absolutely incredible, and she's extraordinary. And as is the film. Yeah, a really unique film. You're not going to see anything else like it this year or many others. And, it's definitely going to just make you smile, I think.
I think so.
Everything will be all right. I promise.
Right. I should probably talk about my film.
Do you want to sing some more Sparks instead?
I don't.
Okay.
But I might sing...
Yeah. Zoom definitely cut a lot of that out, but I knew what you were doing, and the listeners will get it as well.
Yay!
And that's the beauty of the edit.
That is the extraordinary part of the edit. It's Dune.
My planet Arrakis is so beautiful when the sun is low. Rolling over the sands, you can see spice in the air. The outsiders ravage our lands in front of our eyes. Their cruelty to my people is all I've known. What's to become of our world?
Yeah, my number 5.
Your number 5. This is Denis Villeneuve's hit new film. You might have seen it. If you haven't, you should catch it because it's a blast. How to describe my experience of Dune? I remember going to see it at the IMAX in Leicester Square.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. That opening happens with the deep voice sort of, calling and insisting that dreams are messages from the deep. And just surrendering to it. Just absolutely, completely giving over control of my mind and body to this experience. And often, it elicits kind of titters and rolled eyes when you describe the cinema as being a religious experience. But there are so many aspects of going to the cinema and really getting engaged with a film that can only really be described as having that same impact devout have when they go to their church. And if it sounds like a sort of crazed attempt to put into words a weird sort of drug experience or something, then good, because that really is...
It is.
Yeah. It really is that hard to put into words. Just, I remember my chest tightening and holding my breath and discovering that I hadn't breathed in a while and stomach sort of fluttering, just being in love with this film. Putting aside any questions about it that I might have and just going with it. And it's all down to this sort of absolutely immense power of the image that Villeneuve wields so effortlessly in this film. It is an absolute piece of expression that feels monumental. The way in which he uses visual effects so naturally to create just a absolutely coherent world. He's singular in this at the moment. If you look at Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival, he's just doing things out there and putting images out there which are singular. I can't think of someone who's sort of similar in terms of the impact they're having and the way in which they're able to create a kind of cinematography that feels new. This feels like this was due to be released in 2020, and it's a shame it wasn't, because in some ways, because this does feel like the cinema of the future. If you think of Giorgio Moroder trying to find the sound of the future with his what is it, Moog module, or I forget the synth that he had. This feels like the cinematography of the future. And I just adore it. Looking past the image, if I can, for a moment, of its striking color palette and searing visuals, then you will find a very involving story, an epic story that obviously stems from the Frank Herbert novel and has been enormously influential, because you can just see everything in here. You can see Star Wars and Game of Thrones, the poisoned chalice being handed to a noble family to come away to this place to a land they don't understand, to try and instill their values on it. And just the devastating reality of that ends up happening, and this incredible cast
bleakness of the unknown.
Yes, absolutely. Well. Arrakis in general is just such a immensely foreboding place that really recalls the sort of deserts of Lawrence of Arabia. And And ultimately, you can already tell at this stage, even without sort of moving in, through the visions and through what we learn about Timothée Chalamet's character of Paul Atreides, we know that this is going to be an indictment of the White Messiah concept, that this is not going to lead to a place of peace for the people of Arrakis, and that it's going to a much more troubling and frightening place. And then just incredible supporting characters. The one who always stands out every time I watch it is Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica.
Yeah.
This kind of glacial beauty who is also incredibly packed full of emotions that she can barely constrain, and fear, an immense fear that she has for her son and for what she has done and what she may be forbidden to do. And then you have just this incredible warmth from the House Atreides people, like Oscar Isaacs, who plays the father Leto Atreides, and he instills this he's this classical father figure, in as much as he's flawed only in his arrogance and his failure to appreciate. He's Ned Stark essentially, so of course he has to be killed. Spoilers. Oh no, I don't want to watch this. He's got a special suit of armor that has a gap in it, perfect for his beard. That's pretty much all you need to say about that. He instills values within Paul and represents such a purity, an impossible and unsustainable purity, that later on, when Paul does his little salute thing before the final battle, and he's been away for so long from the story, and to have him come back with his own little tune, just as Paul does this, and you realize that he is in the sun, like the father lives through the sun, is just a really beautiful moment in what has been a very exhausting journey. And a little thing that, hey, in spite of the dangers of this land and in spite of the treachery they have experienced, perhaps this kind of nobility might endure. And it's a beautiful kind of moment. And then other background characters, God, who you got? Josh Brolin. With Josh Brolin, I remember I read the thing that Denis Villeneuve said, well, it was simple casting him because Gurney Halleck is a poet, and so is Josh. And that makes so much sense. When you watch it, you realize he's so much more than just a badass. Those moments where he's in the background of scenes playing a musical instrument and talking so romantically about the things he's seen. And then, yes, Jason Momoa is just the most excellent guy. He's just a fucking cool adventurer, and he's so... You can see how
What's his fucking name in this? What's the character's name?
Duncan Idaho.
That's it, yeah. I couldn't get Corbin Dallas out of my head.
Oh, God!
It's not that.
That's probably where that's come from, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's superb, and they're all just playing aspects of of Paul's psyche as he gets older. Hans Zimmer's score, my God, is just... Zimmer has been consistently making these huge scores that, just completely tell it. And whenever I recall a moment now, I'm just remembering his incredibly weird sounds, these dissonant echoes, and right from the off, this kind of strange clanging sound that sounds like someone rattling around a radiator, and it just sounds alien in this beautiful way. So I've probably used the word beautiful about 100 times in talking about this movie, but my God, is it gorgeous.
With good reason.
It's just a stunning looking film, and it is just something that functions and will continue to function now as a way in which I reaffirm my commitment to the cinema specifically, as an institution, as a venue,
Lady Cinema.
At Lady Cinema, as a place in which we all partake in shared dreaming. It's just a marvelous film. They always say of bad movies, just switch your brain off. This is a movie that fucking comes over and pulls the plug out and forces and plugs it into your heart and your penis and forces you to experience. It punches your heart and just forces you to experience this on a purely visceral level. But once the brain starts clicking in on repeated viewings, you'll start to really appreciate the depth of the story that's being told here. It's just a monumental piece of work.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
Well, I tell you what, I really want to hear the OG team's favourite films of the year.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I want to do
too.
right now. So,
okay.
Can we?
Well, I can do that, I guess.
Oh my God! That's such a good coincidence.
Right. Fuck. All right. Nell says, I can't choose. Help. Riders of Justice, The Green Knight and Dune are brawling in the top 3. Annette and Boiling Point have crushed skulls getting to the top 5. But Mitchell's vs. the Machines, Summit of the Gods, and Spencer are knifing their way in. So much beautiful film violence. Very evocative list of favourites there, Nell.
I enjoy it.
And it's weird because I'm saying this and Nell's sitting directly behind me at work. But I'm talking to you, the listener.
I love that. I love that distinction. Yeah, what a hell of a year, and what a brilliant sort of Mortal Kombat Armageddon style image
Battle
that
Royale.
has summoned. Yeah.
So, Chris Attaway. Thanks, Nell. Chris Attaway said my favourite was Limbo, which I really wanted to watch.
Yeah, I saw it last year.
Great.
I saw it last year at the film
cool.
festival. It's very, very good. A very interesting portrayal of immigrant life. And the condescending ways in which they are spoken to by the British establishment was very, very
brilliant.
Believable.
Chris continues, it was my first trip back to the cinema in a couple of years, and it was perfect.
Oh, God bless. Very good film.
Thanks, Chris. Ellen says, Dune has become the movie I've hyperfixated upon to the point where all my co-workers give me shit about it.
Fuck yeah.
It's not the only reason they give you shit, Ellen.
You're a bad person in general, but I'm really glad that you like Dune.
Really like you.
Yeah.
She goes on, Titan, Candyman, The Suicide Squad, Annette, Pig, Encanto, Luca, and I can't stop thinking about The Green Knight.
Yay.
Nor can me.
No, that's a very consistent list of our own. These are just, my God, all these movies. I just can't wait to watch them all again and just make them part of my life.
They were really, really good.
Very good.
Kim at KY Kimberly, hey Kim, says, it's been a while. She says, I love The Green Knight so much. And I'm a medievalist, so period pieces usually make me want to do violence. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad that on this occasion you managed to stave off violence to save it for a much worthier target.
Yeah, and I fucking love movies that are set in medieval times, and I love films that stray away from the usual kind of thing that we see in medieval dramas. And yeah, this sort of take on a strange little piece of mythos was really, really unique, and I'm just amazed it exists.
Yeah, and just to think of all the people who went in, with those expectations around what a period piece would be to find this.
Yeah.
Shame it doesn't have... well, no, it's not a shame it doesn't have mass appeal. Fuck everyone. So, Sophie says, realising at this moment that I only saw 3 2021 releases this year, and I didn't love any of them.
Oh, no.
But
Space Jam 2.
But one of the 3 was The Dig, which she did enjoy, but it's not a new fave. Yeah, I really like The Dig.
I enjoyed The Dig.
It was a sweet, very bittersweet movie with great performances from
Very
Kerry
good
Mulligan and Ray
performances.
Fiennes. Need to see more Kerry Mulligan.
Oh, yeah, always.
Ryan at 27 Backspace said, great year for animated films. Particularly enjoyed The Mitchells vs. the Machines, Luca, and The Summit of the Gods. Absolutely, Ryan. You fucking king.
Yeah, really good to see great stuff rolling out of unusual places as well.
That's the end of the OG team. Thanks so much, everyone.
Right, there's only one last thing to do, and that's have a quick look at the highest grossing films of the year to see how we feel about the state of cinema at the moment. And it's an interesting picture. As usual, because Chinese markets did not close down, really, over COVID, we had 3 Chinese movies. The Battle of Lake Changjing, which seems to be just another one of these war movies, these sort of glamorizing the state war movies. Hi, Mom, a state-approved family comedy, which...
sounds great.
Yep, it's figured to have worked really well because a lot of people couldn't visit family during COVID, so...
Oh, yeah, okay.
Everyone went and saw that instead. And Detective Chinatown 3, which I have no idea about.
Nope.
Great. Outside of that, we have an interesting mix. Obviously, you have the Disney Marvels in here.
Yes.
At number 10, you have the Eternals, which I'm kind of glad managed to get into the top 10 and do good business, because even though I found it to be a very flawed film, I like the idea that Marvel could make movies that are messy.
Yeah.
And that they will take a risk on making something messy. I feel like it should be doing that.
Overall, I felt fairly positive towards the Eternals. I see
too.
its flaws, but compared to Shang-Chi, for example, its contender this year, I would say Eternals leaps and bounds ahead.
I would agree, actually. That's a shame. Yeah. Shang-Chi, we've now got a number 9, which I will say the only thing that makes me feel good about that is the performers in it, most of whom I really like, including Awkwafina. Yeah. And then we have, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home as number 1.
Yep.
Number 1 highest grossing film of the year, and that's...
of course.
Very good.
Makes sense.
Yeah, good stuff. But then we have a slightly more diverse picture. At number 8, we have Godzilla vs. Kong, which is a Warner Brothers film.
Mm-hmm.
Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which is a Sony Pictures film. And then 2 Universal films, F9, which I didn't see, and No Time to Die, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course, No Time to Die.
Yeah, so...
Was that second, or...?
No, that was 4th. So it was Spider-Man No Way Home, Battle of Lake Changjin, Hi Mom, No Time to Die.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Here we go. But hey, it's nice to see that other studios are getting a big slice of the pie. And I hope that they all go away and use it to make more of the films that we love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Re-release Green Knight.
Just re-release Green Knight all the time. And I think that's probably going to do it for talking about 2021. Paul, how can people find out about other years and things that we talk about sometimes?
Oh my god, well, they're there. They're out there if you want them.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. 2021. Wow, can't believe it's gone already. In sarcasm meant, but also sincerely. Thank you so much for everybody who's listened. Yeah. And we'll be back next year for the 2022 recap. But until then, we're still watching bad movies and finding good things because we're a bunch of positive idiots.
Every day.
And you can check us out on Twitter and Facebook at OGTPod. Send us an email at ogtpod@gmail.com. We have a Patreon where our Halloween Scream 2 Uncut and Butt preview is out.
Yep.
There is more to come. We've got a Fiasco one-shot coming up, and very soon we will be updating our stretch goals.
Yeah. Yes, with some very exciting possibilities.
Yes. I'm a very exciting possibility.
And I'm this guy. And remember, the one good thing about 2021 is nearly 60 films that you now need to go and watch immediately.
Yeah, including honorable mentions. There's probably more than 60.
Oh, God. Go.